Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Briareus Kerensky and welcome back to a series of unboxings. Because apparently I can only get my games in groups of 3. I'm not really sure that I'll unbox every single one of them. I am absolutely sure on just 2. But let's start with the first, that for the vast majority of you should also be the most interesting, at least for the game. This is the Kiseki box of Legend of Heroes Sen No Kiseki 3, otherwise known as Trails of Cold Steel in the West. As the name implies, this is the third game in the series, and according to Falcom themselves, this brings the story to 60% completion, so we have at the very least 2 other games of this series, and in my opinion more Falcom games always equal to good things. But let's take a look at this box. So on the front, just the title of the game, a logo on the bottom, on the side, and on the other side the contents. But before delving into those, let's take a look at what we'll find inside. This Kiseki box holds a mini soundtrack, keychains with SD characters, an art book with 128 pages, and a DLC that apparently comes in a very classy envelope. Below that, the usual screenshots and some technical informations. An haste for the PS4 Pro that probably, just like his 8, runs at a higher resolution. 1 player, 40 gigs install, and some details about the PSN. As you might have noticed, the contents were printed on a dust jacket of sorts. Let's see if I can take it apart. Here is the jacket, and let's take a look at the box itself, that on one side has some banners, and on the other side it's the cover we've already seen. So, let's get to the contents. The game, the original soundtrack mini in a Blu-ray case, okay. Full color art book, and I guess this will hold the keychains. Let's delve into the game, that on the front cover shows the main characters of the game, as well as the server rating, the Falcom logo, and nothing more. So on the back we see 5 screenshots this time, as well as some technical details that we've already seen: PlayStation Pro and haste, 1 player and 40 gigs install. So, we have a manual. Way to go, Falcom. If I'm able to eject the disc, yeah, we can see clearly that there is no reverse cover. But let's take a look at this manual. Let me zoom in a bit. Character introduction, locations, and of course controls. Nothing really out of the ordinary, but at least it's a manual, so thumbs up to Falcom. As seen before, the mini soundtrack comes in a Blu-ray-like case for some reason. That on the front cover shows a piece of artwork, and on the back the tracks, just 6 of them. So, ooh, this must be the envelope for the DLC code, and of course the disc. That is a compact disc and not a Blu-ray. And while we're at it, let's take a look at this DLC code and its classy envelope. Before opening it, let's see the outside. Invitation, rather classy. Of course the code itself, don't worry, it will be used. And of course the instruction on how to redeem it. Very nice indeed. Time to browse through the art book. On the front cover, let's see if the covers, yeah, they flow together. Let's try to show this without destroying the art book itself. Table of contents, the word of the game. The pages have glossy finish, so forgive the various highlights on them. And I see that the returning cast members also have all they were in the previous game. And if I'm not mistaken, Falcom pretty much confirmed that the first 3 games will be re-released on the PS4 with enhanced versions. So maybe there will be a nice collection coming along in the following years. Swimsuits, of course. of course, mechas finally. Just 2 pages of them. Before going back to the boring human characters. As we moved into NPC territory, and really more than an art book, this feels like a character collection, but you can't really fault them since this is the 3rd game in the series and all the games are connected, so it's only natural that it will build a huge cast. And I thought there would be sketches for the characters, but instead occasions. And more characters. And finally, something different illustrations. That of course contain characters, but yeah. And all things considered, other than its small size, meaning height per width, this is one of the heftiest art books I've found in any edition. Devices, cards, and finally the art book is done. And with the art book done, this leaves us with the keychains. or does it? But anyway, let's take a look at these keychains that are held by this box of swords. Let's take a look at them in detail. They are quite large and printed on colorized rubber. On the back side, just the logo of the game and the copyright belonging to Falcom. My ominous or is it of before refers to this. The Ami Ami pre-order bonus, that is a calendar and apparently requires some assembly, but let's take a look at it. I ate these plastic bags. Okay. So we have here the calendar pages. The instructions and the components. The various flaps on this plastic support are the fit for the calendar itself. For example, you flip this one like this and it stands upright, while this one is for an horizontal layout. And you can use the various things here to do stuff like this. But let's go through the various calendar pages. But before closing this video, I have yet another art book to show you. This was included with the Japanese edition of Is 8 as, I guess, an appetizer for Sen No Kiseki 3. My guess is that there won't be anything new after we've gone through the art book included in the Kiseki box, but let's take a look at this nonetheless. Well, instead there is something more, mostly on these preparatory sketches. And it's also much easier to flip through this. Time to really go to the conclusion of this video. The Kiseki box of Legend of Heroes 3 is not spectacular, but it's well done. Although I think that the calendar, the Ami Ami bonus, is the item that has struck with me the most. The artbook is large and full of character material, but yeah, it's just character material. I would have preferred less NPCs and more about everything else in the game. But other than that, there are no glaring flaws in this limited edition. The first hour play of Sen No Kiseki 3 will of course follow this unboxing, as will the review, as this is the game I will focus my attention in the following period of time. In the meantime, I hope you have enjoyed this video and you'll stick around for more. Briareos Kerensky, over and out.